Welcome to the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. Not necessarily a channel, a show that I would say is breaking news, because I don't break news. I'm not a reporter. I'm not an insider. I'm none of those things. I am a fan just like you who likes to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Philadelphia Eagles have just made a really, really big move, at least for us this offseason, right? The Philadelphia Eagles, Howie Roseman, and the organization have finally traded outside linebacker, edge rusher Haason Reddick to the New York Jets. And this is a trade that we've been waiting to see all offseason. Now, I will tell you this. When I initially, earlier in the offseason, when I initially heard that the Philadelphia Eagles were saying, hey, go and seek a trade Haason Reddick, see if someone will, give you the money that you want, I was a little annoyed. Raw reaction, because I thought to myself, well, damn, our defense sucked last year, and we're getting rid of our most productive player. But then upon further inspection, further recollection, and as I sat down and, read a lot of the comments on that episode and just kind of, had some of those fans convince me otherwise, that, hey, it seems ridiculous to pay a pass rusher who's entering or getting closer to 30 years old, close to $25 million when, they're going towards the end of their prime of their career and they can't necessarily play the run and all that stuff. So my position shifted a bit. Good perspective on that fandom's part. And I sat there and I said, you know what? Maybe it is best to move on a year too early rather than a year too late with Haason Reddick. And so we have a conditional 2026 third round pick from the New York Jets, which becomes a second round pick if Haason Reddick records 10 or more sacks and plays like 2/3 of the snaps for the Jets. Something along those lines. Otherwise, it stays a third round pick. And over the past 3 years, we've seen Haason Reddick get 10 plus sacks every single year. So my conclusion is this is a good trade for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a smart move by Philadelphia, and we'll get into why. But before we do that, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Asif Badi. Like I said earlier, this is the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast, where we talk about nothing but the birds in the midnight green. And please do us a favor here to support the channel. Just shoot this video a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button to help us push out to all other Eagle fans out there and help us grow organically here at the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. So, why is this a smart move for Philadelphia? Well, number one, you save money in the books for the long run because you do have to pay younger players like Devontae Smith down the road. Because, quite frankly, we paid Landon Dickerson this offseason. You went and got Bryce Huff in free agency, who you got for basically the same amount of money as you were paying Haason Reddick right now. And he's about 3 to 4 years younger and has a similar skill set. You drafted Nolan Smith last year's draft, who is the prototype in terms of body structure like Haason Reddick, has a similar skill set, super athletic, not necessarily the biggest guy, but has incredible ability to get after the quarterback. So you have two guys like that on your roster who have a similar skill set as Haason Reddick, who are young, who are raw, and you don't have to pay them this exorbitant amount of money. Unlike Haason Reddick, who is due for a contract extension, who deserves all the money that he is trying to get. Because what NFL player doesn't deserve the money that they're trying to get? If someone's willing to pay you, go out and get your money, bro. Kudos to him. Hope Haason Reddick gets his bag. That's really one reason why this is a smart move for Philadelphia. It saves money in the books for the long run. Another reason is now you can really, really go young and youthful on the defensive line here. You still have Josh Sweat, who's under 30. Like I said, you have Bryce Huff, Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, all really young. Hell, Moro Ajomo's really young. And you still have Brandon Graham, so the veteran leadership is there with Sweat and Brandon Graham on the defensive line. And after losing a guy like Fletcher Cox, you need some veteran leadership back there. But now your front seven is incredibly, incredibly young. which sets us up for years to come down the road. Nolan Smith should get better this year. Bryce Huff should have good production this year, although we only played 50% of the snaps for the Jets. We know that's a concern, but you would assume that, hey, at minimum, this guy's going to get us double-digit sacks at the very least, or at worst, gives us the same production as Haason Reddick gives. So in that sense, I can live with parting with Haason Reddick and sliding in Bryce Huff in that role, and if we get similar production, hey, I'm a happy camper. And like I said, you anticipate guys like Jordan Davis, Carter, Ojomo, Milton Williams to step up into the fray under the coaching of Clint Hurst and Vic Fangio. And you have these guys on contract now for the next few years where you don't have to worry about paying them big money. So you're hopefully getting good to great production out of a young core defensive line. And lastly, you accumulated a third-round pick, which can turn into a potential second-round pick. And if Haason Reddick, who we believe to be, is as good of a pass rusher as he is, we anticipate him getting double-digit sacks. That's what we thought he would give us for Philadelphia this year. Why not for the New York Jets and that defense over there? If Bryce Huff can get it on 50% of the snaps, Haason Reddick could get it on a majority of the snaps there as well. And most likely, because of the loss of pass rushers with the New York Jets, they're going to have to play Haason Reddick. And Robert Saleh is a defensive-minded coach. That's a really talented defensive unit in New York. And having a veteran leader like that in the locker room for them is a valuable asset, considering some of the pieces that they lost. So I think on both sides, it's a good trade. Whether or not the New York Jets are going to go ahead and re-sign Haason Reddick and give him an extension is yet to be seen. But really for Philadelphia, this is smart business. Because now this sets you up for the NFL draft coming up. You accumulated another pick, whether it's a third-round pick or a future second-round pick. And in a draft right now that has a lot of talented defensive players and wide receivers, hell, here's a thought. The Philadelphia Eagles are in a position now where if they want to go and just get depth on the offensive and defensive line, they can. They can go and get an offensive tackle if they want to. Hell, in the first round, their first pick could be drafting a guy like the guy from Penn State, Chop Robinson, who's really, really raw, an athletic player. A lot of guys really like Philadelphia to draft him. Hell, if a guy like Frank Verse, which I highly, highly doubt, falls to us near 2022, wherever our pick is, you could draft Frank Verse and get a quality pass rusher there. And not only that, that pick that we got from the New York Jets, maybe it is future ammo to trade up into the draft. Maybe to trade up in the second round to get a guy like Adrian Cooper from Texas A&M, a quality linebacker, which we desperately need in Philadelphia, even though we signed a guy like Devin White and Howie Roseman believes in Nakobe Dean. We really, really believe in Nakobe Dean. We believe in his character. All that stuff. Nakobe Dean hasn't shown that he can play. Maybe we draft a guy like Cooper in the second round. So a lot of different things Philadelphia can do now because now they have the extra capital to go ahead and move up and move down into the draft, get guys that they want, whether it's an offensive tackle for depth, get a linebacker in the first or second round. They can go edge if they want to. Hell, they can even draft a DB if they so desire. So there's a lot of flexibility here now in Philadelphia with the extra cap room, with the youth on the defensive line, and the extra draft capital to move up and down the draft. And if there's one thing Howie has shown to be able to do is to move up and down the draft and make deals during the draft to try to better this team. Whether or not I believe he could draft a quality defensive back or a quality linebacker is yet to be seen, but more bites at the apple is a very, very important thing to have in the NFL draft because it's not a fixed science. Not everybody nails every single pick. So the more bites you get at the apple, the better the chance of you landing on a really, really good player. And that's what Howie Roseman likes to do, accumulate picks and hopefully get a stud down the road to help this Philadelphia Eagles team achieve their ultimate goal, which is try to shoot for a Lombardi trophy. I like the move. I'm glad that Haason Reddick has found a home. I'm hopefully the guy is able to get the bag. And the good thing is he went from Pennsylvania to New York, which is not that far of a hike. So it's not like he's moving his whole family, across the country, for example. It's only a few hours up. So that was a solid thing by Philadelphia and Howie Roseman to do for him. And the New York Jets got a quality pass rusher in Haason Reddick and a veteran leader who's been in big games, who's been to a Super Bowl, who's been to an NFC title game, right? And has had 10 plus sacks for his last 3 stops in the NFL. So they're getting a quality player in this exchange as well. Let's not get it twisted. And it sucks that Haason Reddick is not an Eagle, but in the long run, if we believe in what Howie Roseman has built on the defensive line, it's smart business here. And it's a good move. So Howie Roseman, once again, has done a phenomenal job this offseason as of late. I do believe sometimes he's mixed up money, in my opinion, but saving money on the back end with Haason Reddick, and now maybe you go ahead and sign somebody or you draft someone in the NFL draft. Who knows what Howie Roseman's going to do, but it's a quality trade for both the New York Jets and the Philadelphia Eagles. It's smart business. And that's exactly the type of moves that you need to make in the NFC now. Because teams like the Lions, the Packers, the Rams, the Bears, San Francisco still, can't disrespect Dallas. Washington looks pretty good. Atlanta finally has a guy you could throw the ball down the field. The Buccaneers, who beat us last year, retained Baker Mayfield. They have some guys who has been in big games for us. So the NFC is much more talented than other people tend to believe. But one thing's for sure, and that the NFC East in particular, is up for grabs. And right now, Philadelphia is making moves where they are in prime position to not only secure the NFC East, but maybe secure a top seed in the NFC conference. And if we are able to make these moves and play to the standard that we believe we can play to and get a high seed, and the road has to travel through Philadelphia to get to a Lombardi trophy, it bodes well for Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, and the Philadelphia Eagles. Hey, you got through a full episode of the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. Thank you for watching. If you want to support the channel, hit the like and subscribe button below. You can also check us out on Instagram at the Riding the Bench podcast with a K instead of C in the word podcast. And also check us out on audio platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're on there. All of that is in the description below. Please come back next time for the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. Thanks for listening.